Welcome back, broadcasters. Woo, what a game that was. Total domination. The Bucs beat the Bears, and I mean, that was just a great game. So welcome back to the podcast. Want to introduce everybody here, broadcasters. Welcome back. Good to see y'all.
Hey, man, how's it going?
What's going on, bros? How's it going?
Hello. Go Bucs.
And we are joined by a very special guest, Mr. Byron Kennedy, the man who for just a moment held on to the 600 touchdown pass of Tom Brady and then had to give it back. But hey, man, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining us today.
Of course. Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
Yeah, glad to have you on. I mean, it's been a whirlwind a couple days for you, man, I imagine.
Yeah, it's been nonstop.
Celebrity. So you want to just kind of talk about how it went, man? How did that whole experience go?
Yeah, I mean, it was really cool. So the Bucs were pretty much driving down the field that whole drive. And then we were like on the 10-yard line. I think it was 9-yard line. So it was 9-yard touchdown. So I was just stoked to watch them score that touchdown. Big Mike muscled his way into the end zone. And then obviously the crowd went wild. It was funny because once he scored the touchdown, I kind of stopped watching the field. You're just celebrating with everyone around you. And then I looked back down on the field. Mike Evans is like, yo. And just like jumping up at me right when I finally see him again. It was really cool. So he gave me the ball and I went wild after that. That was the coolest thing ever.
Do you know at the time when he gave you the ball, that was the 600 touchdown pass? Or were you kind of in the same boat as Mike? Like, hey, yeah, touchdown.
We were on the same page. I'm just celebrating the touchdown. That's how hyped I was about a Bucs touchdown. I had no idea that was a 600 pass at the time. I was just yelling because I've never gotten anything like that before. It wasn't until a couple minutes later where I actually realized that was the big significant 600 touchdown.
I know you didn't know then, but I know like this morning it was valued quite heavily. I think it's like $500,000. Do you ever like go back?
At a minimum.
I had $500,000 in my hand.
I mean, kind of, but at the same time, if I kept that ball, it never would have gotten sold. So I never really had $500,000 in my hand. That would have been sitting right back there somewhere. So yes and no.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, how could you give up something that cool? You know what I mean? Like, and then you're never going to get it signed, which is unfortunate if you keep it because they obviously want it back. So you just end up with this football that people have to believe, was the 600 touchdown ball. That at least now everybody knows you were the man who got it, and that's super awesome. It shows a lot of dedication as a fan to be able to give something like that back, knowing what it means to you and to Tom.
Yeah, I mean, Tom, that ball was so significant to him. He's the one who threw 600 touchdowns in his career. So he really went out of his way and earned that football. If anyone deserves to have that, it's him.
The juju is also really good to give it back. You don't want to create any kind of negative energy.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, to his point, he made out like a bandit because he got $1,000 out of it. So
yeah,
you're going to sell the ball. And correct me if I'm wrong, you got the game cleats as well from Mike Evans.
Yeah, I got a bunch of stuff. So the Bucs, one of their VPs called me yesterday and was like, hey, we've been talking about you all day. I think this right now is what we've got worked out to send you. They're sending me 2 signed Tom Brady jerseys, signed Tom Brady helmet, a signed Mike Evans jersey, and I think, if I understood correctly, the cleats that Mike Evans wore during that game, he signed those, and I'm going to get those too. And then on top of that, the 2 season tickets to the rest of this season, and then all of next season too.
I'm free most Sundays, Bo. I just want to throw that out there. I don't have a kid or a dog, so I mean, I've got no reason to be at home.
I'll keep that in mind. I don't know where the seats are yet, though. They haven't told me what seats they are.
Other part about me, I'm not picky. So
I watched it from the family section before. Okay, I'll watch it from anywhere.
I will draw the line there. I will not sit in the family section and have some warden come through and scan the aisles for Bud Lights.
That's what I was about to ask. Do they let you drink in the family section?
No, they don't, and they really hassle you.
It's a deal breaker.
Yeah, what big authority that guy has. Have you I mentioned Juju earlier, and I'm a big believer in that. So I was stoked they gave it back just for that sense. But then I had to watch Tom on Monday Night Football kind of roast you a little bit, lightly. I mean, in like a Tom way. But I I gotta be honest, man. I'm upset with Tom because you did him a huge favor. You could have put it under your shirt and just been like,
Swoop.
bye.
Oops,
Yeah,
sorry.
it's hockey season. I'm a hockey fan now. You could have just left. But I was a little upset with Tom. Did you hear his comments?
I did.
Like
He
to say
said
anything to him right now,
I
maybe?
was more upset with Peyton Manning. He was over there calling me an amateur. Tom
Wow.
Brady basically just said I gave up all my leverage when I handed the ball back.
Yeah.
But what else did you hear? He said my name on national television. That was the coolest thing I took out of that.
I just have one last thing I saw on the video. There's a moment where you kind of like double or triple clutch it, where you've got the ball hanging and you don't give it to him right away. Was there a hesitation? How close were you to just being like, I need it in writing and
Oh,
just taking it back?
I told him no like 3 different times that I want to keep this ball. Because he came on, I'm like, I've never gotten anything. This is the most badass thing that's ever happened to me. I'm like, I want to keep this ball. I want to take it home. And he's basically saying like, Tom Brady wants this ball back. Like, what am I going to do? I can't say no to Tom Brady. Like he wants this ball. Like I said, he's the one who threw those touchdowns. I had to give it back to him. We didn't really do much negotiation there either. Everyone's like, oh, the negotiations. Like we didn't really talk all that much. I basically just took it on good faith that the Bucs were going to make things right. And they did.
I did hear on CNBC this morning that Tom Brady sent you a whole Bitcoin. Is that true?
A whole Bitcoin. Yeah. So last night I saw his story post. It was that picture of me handing the ball over to the guy. And he tagged that FTX company that he has a part of. Let's make a trade. And then on Twitter, he posted, let's get this guy a Bitcoin, posting to that FTX team. And they almost immediately said, it's a done deal. Trade's happening. So today they were reaching out. I made an account just like 20 minutes ago and messaged them. They said, all right, great. We'll get it sent over right away. So it's very possible from the beginning of this podcast to the end of this podcast, I just became one Bitcoin richer.
Oh, we definitely want to thank you for joining us, Bo. I mean,
Yeah, thanks, man.
Oh,
it was
absolutely.
great to hear from you, and what an amazing experience. I think every Buccaneers fan dream is now your reality. So, I mean, that's pretty cool in itself. So, again, thanks for coming on, man. Really, really enjoyed talking to you.
For sure. Glad I could make it. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks, Bo. Good talking to you, man.
Later,
Thank you,
guys.
brother.
Thanks, Bo.
Well, that is crazy, man. I mean, what a game he must have had. But from our perspective, sitting on our couches for that game, I think we all enjoyed that game as well. So let's get into our game review. Let's start with Buc Bro Ryan. How did you think the game went? Obviously, it went well, but what were your takes? Anything you saw that you really liked?
There are quite a few things that I liked. Not a whole lot that you can't like. It's 38-3, and it's probably one of the most dominant games I've seen the Bucs play in the past decade. They start really hot. They get up 21-0. Even though Brady didn't throw for a lot of yards, he was efficient. He threw for 4 touchdowns, and he didn't turn the ball over. And it seemed like the defense just had their way with the offense. Justin Fields had nothing on us, and we created, I think, 5 turnovers. So yeah, there's a whole lot to like on the film. The only thing I think as Bucs fans that you didn't like is that we left some points on the board. We definitely had some drives that could have ended in points that didn't. We had a missed field goal. We had some drives stall out. So, you come away thinking you could have scored 50, and why didn't you? So that's really the only take that you don't like. And as I suggested in my pregame, Khalil Mack was the non-factor, no sacks. Tristan, of course, makes up for his game from last season, and yeah, we just look great.
Yeah, man, I completely agree with you. We saw a lot in that game that definitely showed this team starting to gel and come together. 3 sacks, 3 interceptions. You get every running back involved at better than 5 yards a carry. You get every receiver involved at better than 5 yards of reception, 8 yards of reception. It was a dominant performance. But you hit the nail on the head. We took our foot off the gas in the second half. Again, we didn't score any points. We marched all the way down to the end zone twice and came away empty-handed for no reason. And luckily we got away with it, but it makes you wonder, are we going to get away with that against the Saints or the Bills or possibly playoff opponents? And I'd like to see us start finishing some games as strong as we've been starting them.
Yeah, I mean the negative is 2 drives stall inside the 10 and you get 3 points out of them. So yeah, if we want to be nitpicky, that's like the only thing to choose. I mean, otherwise it's dominant. I mean, Fields was in a blender the whole game. I really started to feel bad for him. I don't know why he was still in there at the end. I don't think there was any growth happening in that game. I think you're just putting his livelihood at risk and his morale. But yeah, I mean, we looked great. I'm not as concerned about the lack of points in the second half. I think the team won the game in the first half and they just parked the bus. I think good teams can do that, can just win the game, at halftime, and that's sort of a luxury. And the irony is, we all know what it's like to have the Jameis era where we're down multiple scores at the half, and then it's like this frantic, can we get back in it? I kind of enjoy just putting my feet up and sweating the under a little bit and just hanging out. I've got no real complaints. I thought we looked great.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Zach. I mean, I unfortunately didn't get to see most of the game, but from the highlights, there were really no lowlights in any of those game recaps that I watched. Heck of a performance by the guys. And I think over the last 4 games, the defense is like second overall in scoring, tied for first in sacks, tied for second in turnovers. So the defense has really been playing well despite of the injuries in the secondary. So glad to see the performance of the defense is starting to really kind of come back to what we were seeing toward the end of last season.
We looked so good. I didn't know that we had a fumble. I didn't know Rojo fumbled the ball until I looked at the box score, and I was like, "Oh man, we got 5. We're +5 in this turnover margin." And then I found out Rojo fumbled somewhere. I that must have just like not even phased me. I had no idea.
No, it was crazy because he was outperforming Leonard Fournette on the day until that fumble. It was actually nice to see Ronald Jones come in and start looking pretty good. But for me, I think the underrated performance, the one that got overshadowed the most, was the offensive line performance. I mean, they just completely shut down that Bears defense. And we talked about Khalil Mack and what an impact player he was. Guy had 1 tackle on the day, 1. That was it. He didn't have he was a non-factor, and that was a good makeup game for what we saw last year. And to give up no sacks, to give Brady the kind of time that he had, even if we didn't come away with points on those drives, we still marched into the end zone over and over again. They just didn't have an answer for what we could do on offense, and that's fantastic to see.
Yeah, juxtaposing the way our line looked with Brady really just tons of space and time, slid around a little, but compared to the death pit that Fields was stuck in back there, I mean, it's like it was a stark comparison for sure.
Yeah, we had talked about on our game preview last week, the Bucs should have easily won this game, but Khalil Mack and the Chicago defense was going to be something that they were going to need, to actually, they were going to need to contain. And yeah, they did a great job. Like you said, Khalil Mack was a non-factor. So a heck of a job in a performance by the offensive line and the offense in total for protecting Brady for this game. So now we move on to the 8th game of the season. We're at the Saints, Halloween Day, or just as Halloween as we say here in the US.
Halloween night.
But we got a game coming up. Big time NFC South rivalry here. This will determine whether or not we can take a step even further to cement our places at the top of the division. So let's start with Buc Bro John. What are your key takeaways for this game upcoming against the Saints, and who's your fantasy player to watch out for?
So my key for this game is going to be shutting down Alvin Kamara. So from what I've seen, I've watched the last 3 Saints games. I watched the Saints Seahawks last night. And what I can tell you is that if you double Alvin Kamara, their offense is anemic. They've got nothing. Jameis Winston has no answer for not having that weapon at his disposal. And coming off the Bears game where we let Khalil Herbert run for 100 yards, Justin Fields run for another 50 almost. Alvin Kamara scares me. We know what kind of a weapon he can be, catching passes out of the backfield, running the ball. He's dangerous. He's a great player. But if you shut him down, there's nothing else the Saints can do. And so I think that's something that we can handle because that's going to start up front. That's going to start with our linebackers. That's going to start with our front seven and less on our secondary. So I think that's something that we're going to be able to do, but we can't get away from it. That's something we're going to have to focus on. Otherwise, he's going to torch us because he still looks dynamic. And as far as my fantasy player of this week, that's a super good question. But for me in a Saints game at night, I'm going to have to go with Chris Godwin. I think it's time for him to have a big week, get on the board, and I expect him to have at least 2 tutties this week.
Yeah. I like what you mentioned, John. We definitely have to watch out for Alvin Kamara. It seems our run defense has been a little susceptible the past couple games, especially against the Bears, our first triple-digit rusher against this season. We know who we're going to get with in Jameis, and that's who we got to attack. You got to make Jameis make impulsive decisions and get him flustered. I think I saw it last night when they were playing in Seattle. He was holding the ball a little too long and, getting, not staying in the pocket and keeping his eyes downfield. He was getting flustered in the pocket. So I think if we can do a good job of that, we got a good job of containing their offense. So I think that's our key to the game. Get Jameis flustered, make him make pretty impulsive and incorrect decisions, and force them to try to beat us with consistency rather than explosive plays. For my fantasy player, I'll go with the easy one since I usually don't get this early a pick. I'll go with Tom Brady. He's an MVP candidate, and he seems to not be slowing down. I know the Saints got a good defense, but I look back to last season, Tom Brady didn't play that well against the Saints in either of the regular season games. So I think he'll be hungry for a little retribution from those games of last season. So I looked for him to continue his strong play.
I'm excited just because I've been wanting to play or watch us play rather Jameis for a long time. Jameis is one of my least favorite players in the history of the NFL. Never has a man brought me so much frustration. And then he'll tease you with 1.5 quarters of brilliance. It's bracketed by dog water play that is tough to watch. 30 interceptions like it's nothing. But anyhow, regardless, I'm excited. I think the key on offense is very clearly Kamara, right? I mean, everyone knows that's the guy. So long as Michael Thomas isn't there, it looks like he's not going to be ready this week. It looks like week 9 for him. So we dodge a bullet. We'll have to look for him when we play them again because he's a problem. But it's Kamara. Jameis is like last in pass attempts this season amongst quarterbacks. Their offense is way different than what we've seen in the past. They are not an aired out team. They don't have the talent or the personnel to do that. So they dink and dunk. It's not the offense to be worried about of years past. So just focus on Kamara. He had 100 yards in the first half receiving against Seattle. So he will eat you up for sure. So yeah, get Devin on him, have him throw him out the club over and over again, and then you should be fine. On offense, it's just Lattimore and Jordan that worry me as far as personnel goes. To me, the key is make sure Mike Evans keeps his head cool and doesn't let Lattimore get under his skin like he so often does. I think Mike is just susceptible to those penalties, those kill drives, and I look for Mike to to be a focal point, for them, obviously. So he just got to stay cool under pressure. I said it last week, run the ball, play action, do what we do. The offense is, once it gets humming, it's hard to knock it off track. Mike's going to be my fantasy player of the week just because I like him to boss around Lattimore legally without any flags. Would be great. That's my guy is going to be Mike, and maybe the Bo interview will give us some juju as well.
Yeah, I mean, those are great selections, guys. I mean, I think those are the top 3 fantasy producers from the last game. So great picks there. I think, for this game, I think we all touch base that really the first objective is we got to stop Kamara. He's really the only part of Saints offense that can make a play or has any production, right? And it was interesting to see, even against Seattle, which it doesn't really have a great defense or a pass defense for that matter. Jameis still struggled to really find open receivers or to even attack downfield. So I don't see that changing here in this game. My thought is that they'll probably continue to, Kamara will be the focal point. And so if we can stop him, they'll have a hard time moving the ball. I worry more about how our offense is going to do against that defense. One, as Ryan had mentioned, both games last year, we didn't do too well against this defense. They really had our number, and they've been playing us pretty tough for however many seasons. Even I know Drew Brees isn't there anymore, but he didn't play defense, so it's going to be a tough task for Tom Brady for sure. And then secondly, the crowd noise is going to be a factor for this game. It's in New Orleans. It's a Sunday afternoon game. They're going to be hyped. This is probably the biggest game they've got on the schedule at home. So we'll see how we do there. Tom Brady had mentioned that, crowd noise is really a factor for them in games last year. They weren't there, right? So we'll have to see how we do there. And so hopefully we can execute into a high degree, as I know we can. And hopefully that doesn't lead to execution penalties like false starts, delay of games. Hopefully we can manage those as well. But for me, my fantasy player, my selection is probably gone. I don't know if Antonio Brown's going to play, so I don't know if I'm going to go with him. I'll probably go with Leonard Fournette here. I think you'll see us really try to have a good balance between both the pass and the run. I think we do get down into the red zone, especially inside the 10. We're going to try to pound the ball in with Leonard Fournette. So I'm going to go with him for my fantasy player of the week.
I heard a lot of you guys mention Lattimore and the effect that he has on Mike Evans. One of the things that I saw last night is that you can just as easily get under his skin. DK Metcalf had him all night, and he gave up way too many roughing the passer calls, unnecessary roughness, pass interference calls. I mean, he gave up almost 100 yards in penalties last night, Marshawn Lattimore, and that's something that I would like to see. We're the better team now. In years past, we still had to prove that. We're the Super Bowl champs now. We're going back to New Orleans as the team that knocked them out of the playoffs. This isn't like years past where they've had Drew Brees and they've been able to really defend that legacy of stomping on us that they've had. This is going to be our opportunity, I think, to get in their heads a little bit and remind them that we're the big dogs on the block now. We're 6-1. They're struggling to stay 500. This I think is going to be a statement game for us going in to the bye week and getting everybody back healthy. I think we go in there and we dominate the Saints on Sunday night.
And as always, we're going to end our segment on our Bucs bets for this week. Zach, what a week you had for Chicago, right? Undefeated or 3-0 on your selections. So nice job, man.
Clean sweep. Yep. What can I say? I'm in the zone. It's like the Matrix. Like I'm just seeing the numbers. Like they're not like it's too easy. All that being said, I felt fortunate because we had to sweat that under the whole time. 47.5 felt like a very small number that whole second half, but we did it. We came out. Bears under 16.5 is probably the easiest team total under you'll see. They didn't really sniff the end zone. And then our first half spread, yes, -7. That was 35-3 at the half, right? Or 35-3 at the half. Yikes. So this week it's a little bit different. We just spent all this time talking about the Saints. They didn't look great. Everyone watched them last night. They didn't look great at all. They still don't have Michael Thomas. That offense is anemic right now. So I have on our card for this week, first and foremost, Saints total under. We're going to keep that trend alive until we face a good offense. So 22.5 is that number. We're going to take the under on that. I feel really good about that one. We're going to also do Bucks over for the first half, 13.5 points. Feels like it's an easy 2-touchdown first half for us. So those are nice because they don't really rely upon a spread. We're saving spread for our lock of the week, which is it's Halloween. So we're going to get a little crazy. It's not a parlay-rama. It's nothing that insane. We're going to have our parlay little 2-legger for the lock of the week. We're going to juice some numbers. We're going to juice the over under the total, and we're going to juice the spread. So we're moving the spread down to 3.5, -3.5 for the Bucks. We're parlaying that with under 51.5. We're going to ride the under train. Saints haven't hit an over in their last 5 NFC South matchups, so we're going to ride that trend. We obviously, now the under has hit, I think 3 out of 4 weeks for us, so including a home game, which was my concern. So yeah, anyhow, that's our lock of the week. So in summation, we have New Orleans under 22.5 points for the game, Bucks over 13.5 in the first half, and then lock of the week is going to be a little 2-leg parlay. Tampa Bay -3.5 and under 51.5 for the game. That's at +190 for that parlay, which is nice.
Hey, I would just like to say that my prediction for 4 touchdowns on the game for Tom Brady also hit. So we had a really good bet on that game last week. So I like those picks. I for sure am with the under for the game or that parlay. That sounds like it's going to pay out well if you take that advice. So thanks again as always, Zach. Great bets there. All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in once again. Even if you were just tuning in to watch our interview with Bo, as always, thank you for tuning in, and make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss anything ever again. So, but as always, like we like to end every episode here, go Bucs.
Go
Go
Bucks.
Bucks.
Go Bucks.
I will say Mike has a habit of putting Lattimore on the ground on multiple occasions. One, after Jameis did touch him with the finger, gave him a nice little body shove to the ground. And then my other favorite moment is that Fitzmagic game where he's running the deep route, and as he's going into the end zone, you see Marshawn Lattimore just laying on the ground.
That photo is still one of
totally beat on that touchdown.
That photo still comes up as one of the backgrounds on my phone. It's set on random, and I love when it shows up, bro. It's got that quote. It's just like, "Hey, kids, you want to see a dead body?" And it's just Marshawn Lattimore all laid out, bro. Just can't do nothing about it.